Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to another Community Fit. I'm James, and this is ComUnity. Let me just make one simple adjustment here. Perfect. Now we're great. Okay, welcome to ComUnity. This class is all about nervous system regulation and nervous system coaching and just getting in touch with your nervous system. So I'm going to ask you to type into the chat anything over the last few weeks that you found really interesting, works really well for you, and or maybe anything else you would like to learn today or for the rest of the time we have together over the next few months. So drop whatever you want in the chat. What have you learned that's been interesting? What is working well for you for the practices? Maybe you want more of it. And or if you have a specific concern, like you notice you hold tension somewhere, or you notice you get anxious or stressed in a situation, put that in and again, my classes are always collaborative. So this will not be the last time that I ask for feedback. If you've been to any of my classes, you know I work best that way. What's working well for you? What can we do more of? So on and so forth. My right shoulder has been bothering me. Okay, great. Keep them coming. Right shoulder bothering you. Is it related to like nervous system stuff? Are you noticing that with that? If not, join us for Wednesdays. Wednesdays is really the class in which we cover like aches and pains and like embodiment sort of stuff. But if you're like, oh, it's because I'm stressed and this is why, great. Surprisingly, we hold a lot of physical pain in relationship to stress. Anyone else? Uh, okay, keep them coming, guys. Whatever that is, we'll wait. The awareness of how your body all works together. Great. Noticed how much more mindful I was about the space I was the last few weeks. Great. Awesome. Okay. Whatever you want, keep it coming in. Let's go ahead and get started for today. Here's the invitation. The invitation is for you to simply just notice. Notice whatever you notice. You may want to notice it from the lens of the body. You may want to notice it from the lens of the mind, or you may want to notice it from the lens of emotions, or just what's the spirit of the moment. And just kind of noticing, noticing what's going on with you. Now, the last few weeks we've done quite a bit of noticing, and the reason I stress the noticing, or what we might call focusing, is because that's the measurement of knowing which of these practices are working well for you and which ones are not working well for you. How often, again, people want to know, especially with nervous system work, because we're just not accultured to understand it, is how do I know I'm doing it right? Or how do I know it's working for me? Or how much of this do I need to do? Or how much of this don't I need to do? So today we're going to again notice that, and I'm also going to clue us into some in the moment markers that your body may or may not be giving you to know, am I doing this right? Is this working for me? First one is always, what is my body telling me? Now, in the past couple of weeks, we've noticed just generally, and then we noticed what feels really good and maybe what feels the opposite of really good. We're ready for something new. Notice in your body something that feels neutral. It's going to be the hardest one to notice. An area that does not feel specifically good, an area that does not feel specifically bad, but nonetheless, an area in your body that you are aware of that feels neither good nor bad, right? Not something you're disembodied to, not like, oh, I know that I have a right hip, but I can't feel it. Or we've got some shoulder things going on today, not the painful shoulders, not somewhere that feels great, just somewhere that you're like, oh, I'm aware that I have this and it's not good nor bad. Like for me right now, I'm very aware that I have upper legs. Maybe it's the way it's sitting in the chair, maybe it's the clothing I have on. I'm just aware that I have thighs, right now. I have quads, I have hamstrings, I have femur bones. I'm aware of them, and they don't feel good and they don't feel bad, but I am aware that I have them. They are having a sensation. So the invitation is for you to just notice that. Notice somewhere that feels neither good nor bad. And then maybe instead, notice somewhere that feels really good. Something we did, I think it was last week or the week before. Notice somewhere that feels exceptionally good. Like for me right now, my upper back feels exceptionally good. I'm aware that it's there, but there's like a coolness to it. It feels relaxed. It feels supported. It feels good. And then maybe also notice somewhere that doesn't feel good. Like for me, it's my left low back. It doesn't hurt. It just doesn't feel as good. It's not neutral and it's not good. It's just a noticing that, oh, that feels less supported. Now, again, if this is hard for you, I expect it to be. That's why we start with this stuff early in this series so that we can build up our awareness and practice it so that it's more accessible to you. So no worries if it feels difficult, if you're like, I can't do that right now. Totally fine. Sometimes the body in and of itself is not a safe space to begin to notice these things. Sometimes it is, but there's value in trying. So just kind of noticing something good, something bad, and something neutral. I'm just sort of circling through that. And here's the thing, isn't it amazing that just by shifting your attention, you can notice a good thing, a bad thing, and a neutral thing? That's also available to us in the cognitive body. I can notice a good thought, I can notice a bad thought, and then I can just notice something neutral. And even more interestingly, I can kind of begin to notice the same thought from a lot of different lenses and just kind of play with that thought process. What I'm exposing you to is often the way our nervous system is functioning is it's just giving us information, right? And the way we then interpret that information is what is the value system we produce around it. Meaning something happens out in the world, that's called a stressor. My body sends a response. Oh, here's a shadow coming towards me. I have a response to it. And then my brain, based on past behaviors, past experiences, will then interpret the thing as either a good or a bad thing. Sometimes it's just neutral. Sometimes we misinterpret. Sometimes that neutral thing coming at us is interpreted as bad. Sometimes it's a lot of different things. So just being aware that stress, anxiety, overwhelm is not a behavior, it's not an attitude, it's not a personality trait. It's not even most of the time an actual thing. I say this a lot in these classes that imagine a roller coaster and you're in line to take this roller coaster. Now, that roller coaster, for some people, is going to be really exciting. And for some people, it's going to be really scary. And for some people, it's like, okay, that's a roller coaster. It's neutral. Who's right and who's wrong? Is it scary? Is it exciting? Is it neutral? It's just based on experiences. That roller coaster hasn't shifted. So all of the things happening to us, the vast majority of them, are pretty neutral. Being late to work, that's a pretty neutral thing. Having too much work, that's a pretty neutral thing. It's the way we're interpreting it. And so, knowing that your nervous system and the way we interpret it is mutable, is navigable, is changeable, is the whole point of what we're doing here. And so that's why we have to constantly cue in and tune in to what's going on. So, again, let's start with a breath work. We've done our physiological sighs. We've done just an exaggerated exhale. We've done a couple of different breath work techniques. We've done a 4-7-8. Let's today practice with a box breathing technique. Box breath is one of the most taught breaths for nervous system regulation. It's taught to Marines, it's taught to SWAT teams, it's taught in a lot of different areas because it's pretty simple to do. Box breathing is imagining a square in front of you, and we all know squares have equal sides. So our inhale is an equal count, a hold is an equal count, exhale equal count, hold, repeat. We're going to do a count of 4. If 4 doesn't work for you, that's what I'm going to count. You make it work for you. And if after a few repetitions of this, you're like, no, not for me, not a box breather, you can go back to physiological sigh. You can do the 4-7-8. Again, that's an inhale to a 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8, or you can just breathe like a regular human being and see how that goes for you. I'm going to do the box breath. I'm going to count it for you because it doesn't make much sense for you to watch it. So we're going to start off with an inhale to prepare, an exhale to prepare, and then right into the box breath. I'm going to do 4, just visualizing that square in front of us. So inhale, exhale. Inhale to a count of 4, 3, 2, hold. 4, 3, 2, exhale. 4, 3, 2, hold. 4, 3, 2, inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. And just notice. Now, on your own, 3 repetitions of whatever breath work for you. We just did the box breath. You can do 4-7-8. You can do physiological sigh, which again is a double inhale followed by a single exhale. And just notice, sometimes if it belongs to you and you're doing it on your own, it feels a little different. So 3 rounds of whichever breath work you choose to do. And just noticing. From there, let's move into orientation. And you're just going to start to look around your space. Just noticing everything in the room. Now you can continue with the visual orientation. You could switch to auditory, just listening for sounds in the room. Eyes closed, I can listen. What's the closest sound? What's the furthest away sound? Maybe I notice something down the block in a different room, something real close. Maybe there's a fan on or another person. Or we can do that orientation 2.0, meaning I look around the room and I stop at whatever looks beautiful, looks pleasing to the eye, brings me some sort of joy, relaxation, fond memory. And I just notice. I notice the thing and I notice how it makes me feel. I love to do this one looking outdoors, or my dog is asleep right over there. So I could look over at my dog and just notice. And then discerning for today. Did the breath work better for me? Did the orientation practice work better for me? How do I know? What did I notice? What am I feeling? What determines, how do I recognize what's working well for me? And then just kind of cataloging, like that's the thing I'm going to do more often. Now, I said at the top that what we're looking for is physical state changes. Again, I'm approaching nervous system work from the somatic lens. How are we working with the body, the mind, the spirit, the emotionality of the moment, and our physical space and other people, right? This isn't necessarily a meditation class. This isn't a yoga class, although we might get into some versions of each of those as we move forward. This is your basic fundamental. That's what we're spending this month on. Basic, fundamental, very accessible practices that affect the physiologic response, the body response I have to stressors and stress, right? Something you can do no matter where you're at all the time. And again, how do we know we're doing it right versus wrong? Which ones are working, which ones are not working? I'm looking inward at my physical experience. What am I noticing in my body? What am I noticing in my thought process? What am I noticing about the moment? Now, sometimes we need a little more immediate feedback. Well, luckily, our body does that for us. And there are a number of different ways that you can spot that immediate feedback. Before we go into the physical touch practice, let's talk about those for a moment because chances are you will, if you get real quiet and real aware, your body is going to give you one of these feedbacks. Here are the feedbacks. When our body regulates, does some sort of state change here, going from like anxious to more settled, your body will do one of a few things. It will either do a breath change. Often that will be some version of a yawn, right? So I'm breathing and then there's like a yawn. Yawns do not necessarily mean you're tired. It is a nervous system state change. It is a exchange rate of oxygen and CO2. It is your body's way of saying, "Oh, something is different in this moment. Let's adapt to that." So, as you're doing these practices, notice, am I inclined to do like a yawn or like a big gulpy breath? Or it could be like a physiological sigh, a double inhale followed by a single exhale. Those are all good signs. Some of our bodies, some of your bodies will do that. Other bodies, and at other times, you may do like a gulping swallow. Why? Because we have nerves in our body that determine these state changes, this nervous system regulation. One of them, and we'll talk more about this in the future, is your vagus nerve. Vagus nerves go from my gut all the way up. They split, and I kind of wander around the different viscera, but it splits and it goes up and it interdigitates with some of my throat muscles and some of my jaw muscles. And so I'll feel like a gulping swallow sometimes. You may also notice some sort of like gurgly sound in your belly. In fact, psychologists, and I still, for the life of me, can't remember the term. I say this every single session that I say this in. I'm like, you're going to look it up. There's a term that psychologists will use when they're in talk sessions, and they will hear their clients' stomach churn and I used to think years and years and years ago that it was like, oh, I'm just seeing people when they're hungry or they haven't eaten yet, or maybe they just ate. And then I'm noticing when I would work with people, it's like no matter what time of day, something like that would happen. I'm like, surely not everyone is coming in having just eaten or needing to eat, but your stomach will actually churn and make noise when you feel regulated. So as we go through the touch practices or any of these practices, and you're like in the moment going, am I doing this right? Do I like this? Is this a good thing? Just notice, are you inclined to do a breath change? Do you do a gulping swallow? Does the churning thing sound? Or do you just feel regulated? Now, having said all of that, let's do some physical therapeutic touch. We've been playing pretty openly with this, going, well, you can touch here, you can touch here, you can touch your chest, you can touch your belly, wherever it is you'd like. If that's working for you, go ahead and just do that. Let's get a little more specific though, if you'd like to follow me into the practice. We're going to take and just put our hands on the front of the throat. I'm not pushing in. I'm not squeezing. I'm not overly asserting. I'm barely just resting my hands here. And then I'm going to rest my head into my hands. I'm just going to hold. Now, for me, as I do this, I'm already feeling inclined to do a yawn. And just kind of noticing. For some people, you may find it better to do like a chest hold. You could do some of the havening that we did the other week, just kind of caressing the hands, the upper arms, or the face, or you can just do the hold. We're just going to breathe Do the hold. I just had a big gulping swallow. It's feedback from my body, and just kind of notice for yourself. Again, these things happen split second. This is one of the nice things about studying meditation is you become very observant of your immediate experience. Meditation is like a life practice more than it is a stress reduction practice. It's really about noticing what's happening. And so some of these somatic practices and the meditation practices hold hands together because it's so easy to start one of these practices and then get sidetracked and miss the yawn, miss the gulp, miss the stomach thing, miss the moment. Just holding. And as you release, just kind of cataloging for yourself. What are you noticing now? And then let's move into one of our movement practices. Now, again, movement is great. All sorts of great movements, going for a walk outside, doing a exercise you like. And here's the thing, a lot of people will say, "Oh, I need to do yoga is the practice for stress reduction and movement." Not true. Not true for everybody. Yoga is good for stress reduction, anxiety reduction, if you like doing it in the moment. You will get no benefits out of it if you're like, I hate every moment of this, but at least I did it and it's supposed to do something for me. Uh, It does not work. It's about doing something enjoyable. So finding a movement practice that is enjoyable. There is nothing better about yoga than there is weightlifting, than there is going for a walk outside or swimming or dancing around in your own home to your favorite music. No more benefit, no less benefit in any of them from a stress reduction perspective. Okay, so for today, thinking what feels good for my body to do, we're going to give it some options, and it's for you to discern which of these feel the best to do in the moment. Number one is a general shake. Take my arms up, take my arms down, just kind of shaking, right? Option number one. Option number two is a gentle bilateral sway, right and left. Maybe you notice it as I'm weighted on my left butt cheek and then weighted on my right butt cheek. Maybe you notice it as a seaweed movement through the spine. That's option number two. So I have like a shaking, I have a swaying action. Option number three, rotation. I can rotate, come back, rotate. When I rotate, I'm rotating to the right here. So I'm allowing my left butt cheek to come up, weight shifting over to the right and really twisting. You may even want to have some breath in here. It's option number three. So I can shake, I can twist, and I can do a little like a bilateral sway. Option number four is a bounce. And I'm just bouncing, 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 bouncing. You may even want to stand up for this one. I'm just noticing which one feels the best. I introduced this one today because I could just feel in my own body like, oh, I don't want to twist. I don't want to sway. I really am feeling like a bounce. So I'm just going to bounce. Big yawn happening for me. What's happening for you? And then just pause and notice what's working well, it's not working well. How do you know? What are the markers along the journey? Now, wrapping up sort of the best of the foundational practices here. we have the vocalization practices. So first we're going to do just that audible sigh, right? Could be a closed mouth. Or it could be sort of a like a hum sound. Hmm. Could be an open mouth. Just kind of noticing that. Now, continuing on with this, I'm going to introduce a new version of like a humming sigh sound. This one is called the VOO breath. V is in Victor, O is in octopus, O, 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 O. V, O, 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 O. Our inspiration here is sort of a foghorn sound or like a deep belly sound. Starts with a V, O, 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 O. Now you don't have to hold your VOO sound as long as I do mine. If yours goes longer than mine, great, go longer. It's not a timed thing, it's a personal thing. So I'm going to demonstrate it once, and together we're going to do it 3 times. If this does not work for you, if you're like, nope, not in a space to do this, remember you always have a breath practice, a movement practice, a orientation practice to turn back to, or just listen. So VOO breath sounds like this. Boom. And it will just go on as long as you want to hold it. Got it? V is in Victor, O, O, O. So there's like a rush of breath followed by this prolonged O, deep belly resonance sound. Again, we're going to try it 3 times. You decide which practice works best for you. 3 times, I'm going to do VOO. Boom. Boom. One more. Boom. And just notice. So the VOO breath in particular comes from Dr. Peter Levine, who's the founder of somatic experiencing, which is sort of the um, university Harvard level of somatic work, right? It's the gold standard. And that VOO breath, those of us who have been through somatic experiencing coursework, we kind of describe it as like the grounding coming back home breath or sigh sound. So I don't know if you notice that in your experience. For me, it's like everything gets really still and I'm really present after I do it. It's a fleeting feeling, but it's like a collection and presence feeling for me and a lot of people. Maybe not for you. Maybe it doesn't work for you, but just noticing which ones do, which ones don't. Now, again, the commitment is which ones are you going to practice? How are you going to practice it? What are you looking for? How do you know that you're doing something good, right, moving in the right direction, moving away? Because again, it changes daily. It changes. What's working for you may not work for him or her or them. It's a personal experience, and that personal experience will change day to day. So you got to get curious about, well, how do I know? What information is coming up that lets me know in my own body that this is or is not working for me? So that is today's class. For those of you with like the physical aches and pains, I kind of talked about it at the top of the hour. We had some requests for like shoulder things, so on, and I'd be curious to know, did anyone's shoulder things go away or diminish after that class? Because sometimes if it's stress related or anxiety related, not even working on it, but working on the nervous system will sort of dissipate those things. So Did anything change for you? Did anything go away? And if not, if it's like, nope, there's a physical thing going on, I invite you to join us on Wednesdays for our midweek desk stretch, which is really about embodiment and working through some of the common things that come from like sitting a lot. It's an opportunity to just be with the body. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer them right now. Not yet. See you Wednesday. I will see you then. And in the meantime, everybody, have a good weekend. Bye. So we got interested in more vagus nerve practices information. Yep, we will definitely be covering more vagus nerve. Vagus nerve will have and happy New Year or happy Lunar New Year, everybody that it celebrates. We will be talking way more about vagus nerve, especially as we get into co-regulation and that sort of stuff. Again, we're spending this beginning time kind of in the foundations and like the simplest practices before we start adding complexity and nuance onto other things. Okay, bye everybody.